Breaking news on Morning News Now, a bombshell leak out of the Supreme Court that could impact the lives of millions of Americans in the decades-long debate over abortion rights. A draft opinion obtained by Politico suggests that the Supreme Court will vote to strike down Roe v. Wade. In the draft ruling reported by Politico again last night, Justice Samuel Alito writes Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has had damaging consequences.
The court has 5 justices that are essentially aligned with this opinion that he's written, which is, just a withering takedown of the Roe v. Wade precedent. It pulls no punches at all.
That there was the reporter from Politico who broke the story. Now, NBC News has not confirmed the draft, and the court tells us it has no comment at this time.
But already a mix of outrage and celebration across the nation, including in Washington, where supporters and opponents of abortion rights gathered outside the Supreme Court.
I absolutely have to be out here because this is something that affects me so personally and hurts so much to know that might be ripped away from me.
The unborn are human, and we've been killing them in mass to the tune of millions. And so I have no words. I have no words.
If Roe is overturned, then it would be up to individual states to decide if and when abortion is legal. Experts predicted about half of all states could make abortion illegal. In some states, it would happen instantly. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. The Supreme Court's final decision could still change, but this revelation is causing shockwaves throughout Washington and the country this morning.
We do have team coverage right now. NBC News legal analyst Cynthia Oxney with what it all means and what happens next. But let's start with the latest out of D.C. and White House correspondent Mike Memoli. Mike, good to have you with us. So first of all, let's just talk about this leak. It's coming at a time when Democrats control the House, the Senate, the White House. Do we know how the president, how politicians are responding to this?
Well, Joe, we haven't heard from the White House declining to comment after this story broke last night. That's likely to change when we see the president leave the White House in just a few hours to travel down to Alabama. It is just significant to look at what the president has said recently, though, about this issue. He has said women's reproductive health is under assault in this country. In the State of the Union address, he called for Congress to enact the protections of Roe versus Wade, the protections on abortion rights, into federal law. That's led to some prominent Democratic officials, including Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, to call for this moment to do just that. It would require changing the Senate filibuster's rule, lowering the voting threshold to 50. Obviously, we wouldn't expect any Republicans to support this. That's an internal fight for Democrats. But we will likely, as I say, hear from the president later today. And we're also going to hear from Vice President Harris. She was already scheduled to speak at a gala dinner tonight for Emily's List. That is a Democratic political organization that supports candidates who support abortion rights. So this is an issue that will likely become front and center as we move forward, especially for the Democratic Party.
We want to bring in NBC News Justice correspondent Julia Ainsley right now. Julia, NBC News has not obtained or confirmed this draft put out there by Politico, but what do we know about this document, and what are the implications if Roe is overturned?
Well, that's right, Joe, and it's probably unlikely that anyone will obtain this because it's such an unprecedented leak. But when you look through this document, it does seem to line up to exactly where the court would have been in their drafting decisions in February. Again, they heard these oral arguments over the Mississippi case that banned abortion at 15 weeks in December. This would have been about where they were, having figured out who was in the majority, who was in the minority, and having Alito draft this opinion, being the one to speak for the majority. It also shows that we're not clear where the Chief Justice would stand on this issue, since he would normally be the one to write the majority if he were indeed on that side. It could be, though, that he just hasn't picked a side. And you were right to point out that these are decisions that could change. That is a big reason why things never leak from the Supreme Court, because these justices stay so insular so that they have the will to deliberate, to change their minds, to look at how someone else might present an opinion and then be swayed. That's the way this body is supposed to work. But right now, if you take a look at where things stand, and if they didn't change, it seems that this would not be what some had predicted to be a slow kind of weakening of Roe, but instead this would obliterate Roe.
And Julia, you mentioned this leak itself is shocking. There is a lot of speculation out there, but at this point, that's really all it is speculation, right? We really have no idea where this leak came from, do we?
Really no idea. I mean, we know that it's usually a very small number of people who are able to see these documents. It has never happened. A leak like this has never happened in the modern history of the court. You just have to think about what the topic is here, and that this isn't leaking about some kind of arcane law or something that's very in the weeds. This is perhaps the most hotly and highly watched decision over the modern history. There have been so much debate over this issue since the court ruled about 50 years ago on this issue. And so it could be that whoever this was who leaked it felt that there was some moral implication to do so, either pro or anti-abortion rights. And so now we'll be sitting to see how things could change and how the court will respond. So far, the court has made no comment on this, but no doubt they are rattled, Joe.
Mike, this would be a legal decision with huge political ramifications. In August 2021, NBC News poll found 54% of Americans believe abortion should be legal. Democrats were heading into the midterms facing strong headwinds. Could this outcome, this decision by the court, if it happens, change the dynamics this November? And if so, how?
Well, Joe, I've actually been talking to Democratic officials very close to this White House, and they've been telling me for months, frankly, that, yes, we're looking at the poll numbers for the president, for his party, and sensing that this is going to be a midterm that follows tradition. In other words, that Democrats were going to face a shellacking, likely a strong wave against them. But they said, look, wait for the Supreme Court ruling, because this has the possibility of really upsetting the entire political dynamic. And that's what we're already beginning to see. Swing district Democrats already posting messages to Twitter. Alyssa Slotkin, for instance, she's going to face a tough race in her Michigan district. Michigan is one of those states which would immediately, the previous law, which would outright ban abortion, would go into effect. We saw in the past elections, for instance, in the governor's race in Virginia last fall, the Democratic candidate, Terry McAuliffe, had warned that the Republican candidate, Glenn Youngkin, would sign into law a ban on abortion. That's likely to now be a message. It didn't work for McAuliffe last year because it was lower in terms of economic issues, other issues, but this now raises it, puts it high profile at the top of the list, and Democrats really sensing that they might have an opportunity here. Republicans, though, we've seen in the past, Republican base voters also strongly motivated by the issue of abortion, and so we could see both sides even more motivated to get to the polls, and this is always, in the midterms, an election about turnout.
Julia Ainsley and Mike Memley, thanks for beginning our coverage this hour. Appreciate it.
Let's continue with former federal prosecutor and NBC News legal analyst Cynthia Oxney. Cynthia, thanks for being with us. So let's just step back a moment. What's before the Supreme Court? It's called Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health. This is out of Mississippi. And what was in question there was this ban on abortion in that state at 15 weeks. So now what we have here is this leaked majority opinion reportedly written by Justice Samuel Alito. It also suggests at least 5 justices side with Mississippi here. Walk us through, though, the legal argument that Justice Alito is making as it relates to Roe v. Wade.
Well, first recognize that while the leak is surprising, the opinion is not as surprising because the court took the Dobbs case when it didn't really need to, and because there was no split in the circuits about Roe at the time. So the fact that this opinion is coming the opinion itself is not that shocking. What Justice Alito is saying is abortion is not in the Constitution, and it's not enough of a settled right implicit in the concept of ordered liberty that it should be applied to the states. And since it's not in the Constitution, there is no constitutional right to abortion. And that is going to have, earth-shattering consequences for women across the country, because it means that in these states where they've said abortion is going to be absolutely illegal, that you can be criminally prosecuted for getting an abortion. if Roe v. Wade is overturned. That's going to be true in about 12 states right away, and probably in about 25.
Yeah, so Cynthia, what you're kind of talking about here are these trigger laws. So essentially, again, a reminder that overturning Roe v. Wade doesn't automatically mean that the Supreme Court decides that abortion is illegal, but it allows states to make that decision. And these trigger bans are essentially these laws that are idling, ready to go should this happen with the Supreme Court. So what would happen in those states, and how quickly would we see that happen?
Well, let's say a trigger law in Texas says you can't have an abortion, totally illegal. What that means is if you are a young woman in South Texas, you have to drive 1,500 miles or 2,000 miles to someplace in California if you want to make a decision about how to control your own body. Or, let's just say there are no exceptions, for example, that the Supreme Court says have to be protected for rape or incest. So if you're a rape victim in one of these states where it's illegal to get an abortion, you have to have enough money to drive or fly to some other state that has a different view. And ultimately what it means is that poor people and middle-class people are going to be deprived of their rights to control their bodies, and rich people will zip around and do whatever they want. It's a very dangerous situation, because probably what will happen, which is what the history tells us, is that abortions will continue, but they will not be as safe. People in Texas will drive to Mexico, for example, where they will be much more dangerous.
So, Cynthia, let's broaden out a little bit about what this kind of says about the Supreme Court and what we could see. I mean, what Roe effectively provided was a constitutional right to an abortion. And then if this reported draft does, in fact, reflect the decision that we'll see later on, it would essentially be the first time that a constitutional right was granted by the Supreme Court and then subsequently taken away by the Supreme Court. So this raises the question if this could happen to other rights that the court's decisions have provided. This was rooted in privacy, and that principle is the same for birth control, the same for same-sex marriage. Now, in this alleged draft, Justice Alito did write that this should not cast doubt on precedents that do not concern abortion. He did specifically call that out. But what do you think on that?
I don't think so. I think it threatens all those rights, because the basic framework really since Brown v. Board of Education has been that the 14th Amendment, that certain rights were fundamental and applied to the states. And what he's saying is, no, maybe not. And that does put contraception and the right to marry who you wish, and same-sex couples, all of these privacy issues, it puts it all in threat. And while he says, oh, it doesn't really have anything to do with it to try to make it more politically palatable, who are we kidding? They've been saying for a long time that Roe wasn't going to be overturned because it was settled law. So I think it puts everything in question. That's why it's such an earth-shattering opinion. And we need to, while it's fascinating to focus on the leak, we need to remember the earth-shattering nature of the opinion and the effect on everyday, ordinary women's and other people's lives is the crux of this story. That's the biggest problem that we need to stay focused on.
And Cynthia, quickly before I let you go, this is just a draft. If it is in fact that from the Supreme Court, this decision isn't expected for another month or two. Any chance this changes?
Well, I mean, it could change, but it's not going to change much. I mean, there's little pieces of, for instance, Justice Amy Coney Barrett is very interested in the fact that if you can have a baby and just drop it at a fire station, which I just think is an outrageous concept, but so we don't need abortion anymore because you have safe houses. There's comments like that in the opinion. Those things may change. There may be a way to try to bring Justice Roberts in. But the heart and soul of this, if it's really true, and it looks like it is that there are 5 votes to overturn Roe v. Wade, and they have every intention of doing it.
Cynthia Oxney, thank you so much for your analysis and expertise this morning in our coverage. We'll continue in a few minutes more on this possible overturning of Roe v. Wade just ahead.
Let's focus on the war in Ukraine now, where today there could be a new attempt to evacuate more civilians from that blockaded steel plant in Mariupol. Russia resumed shelling the steelworks after more than 100 people were evacuated on Sunday, part of that rescue operation spearheaded by the UN and the Red Cross. That first group of people is now heading toward the southeastern city of Zaporizhia, which is preparing to welcome the evacuees. NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley is there for us and filed this report.
Well, I'm here in Zaporizhia, only a few hours drive from Mariupol, where we are still waiting to hear about those civilians who have been evacuated from that Azovstal steel plant, where they've been hiding out underground for months now. Now, we've heard that some of them have been evacuated, but those efforts to get them here in Zaporizhia, where most people have been coming from the southern area, you can see this is where cars pull up, that's been slowed, and now there's no real information on where those people are or the status of that evacuation. Instead, Russia is continuing to bombard the eastern part of the country. The Donbass region have hit Odessa and other places in the east as they seem to be planning to extend their occupation and control, maybe even considering annexing some of that Donbass region. Now, that's particularly threatening, and one of the reasons why, as the guns have started to fall silent in certain parts of the country in the east in preparation for that evacuation from the Azovstal steelworks, a lot of people have decided to just take matters into their own hands and try to make it over here as much as they can, and that's why we're seeing cars filtering in. But again, we haven't seen anything from Azovstal. Now, all this comes as European Union countries are making preparations or considerations to try to increase their financial and economic pressure on Russia. We've heard new signs from Germany, which since the beginning of this conflict, Germany has been a laggard in terms of its willingness to punish Russia. Germany now saying that they will consider a phased approach to ban oil imports from Russia. Now, this would be very difficult for a lot of countries, especially those Eastern European countries whose infrastructure relies on oil from Russia. But as we've seen, Russia has already cut off gas supplies to Bulgaria and Poland. Now, this is because those countries refused to pay in rubles as Moscow demanded. So this is putting a lot of countries in a very, very difficult position. But the political will behind punishing Russia is motivating a lot of European countries to take ever greater action. And that's why we could see a sixth package of very harsh economic sanctions from the European Union being discussed or even implemented as early as this week. Matt Bradley, NBC News, Zaporizhia, Ukraine.
Joe Cirincione is a distinguished fellow at the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, and he joins us now to talk more about the situation in Ukraine. Thanks so much for being here. So the U.S. ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe says Russia is planning to annex those separatist-backed republics in eastern Ukraine. First, let's listen to more of what he said yesterday.
The reports state that Russia has plans to engineer referenda on joining Russia sometime in mid-May, and that Moscow is considering a similar plan for Kherson. Now, the international community, including the OSCE, where I work as ambassador, has been very clear that such referenda, such sham referenda, fabricated votes, will not be considered legitimate, nor will any attempts to annex additional Ukrainian territory.
So, Joe, this has somewhat been the operating theory, but what do you make of those comments? And then tell us, how straightforward would it be for Russia to annex those areas? What exactly does that mean? And is there anything the West could do about it?
Russia is trying to put a democratic veneer over its invasion and occupation. This would be unprecedented, having a referendum in a disputed territory. Unlike Crimea, for example, 2014, 2015, Russia still doesn't control these regions yet. They're still contested. Ukrainian forces are still resisting the somewhat stalled Russian advance. So they're trying to pretend that this is what the people of these regions want, that they want to be part of Russia, that they don't want to be part of Ukraine anymore. I expect the referendum to go through. I expect the results, as the ambassador said, to be a sham, to be fraudulent, but it'll give Vladimir Putin a positive talking point for his May 9th victory parade in Moscow.
Joe, we also understand the European Union is preparing sanctions on Russian oil, even potentially placing an embargo on Russian oil sales. Given how reliant Europe is on Russian energy, could something like this really happen? How significant would that be, and what would the implications be?
It is happening, and it is extremely significant. It shows how resolute Europe is to resisting this Russian invasion. Right now, the European Union is reliant on Russian oil for about 35% of all the oil it uses. That's why some of the big states like Germany were resistant to this, but they've come along to this idea. They have a draft agreement. They're just working out some exemptions for some heavily oil-dependent countries like Hungary and Slovakia. But Germany Germany itself has already reduced its dependence on Russian oil down to 12% just in the last 2 months. So, yes, this will join their embargo on coal. This will probably happen this week or next. And the only one left is natural gas, which is much tougher for Europe to cut off altogether.
Joe Cirancione, we always appreciate you joining us. Thanks for your time.
There are new developments this morning in the House committee's investigation into the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The panel has requested interviews from 3 Republican members of Congress who may have information related to the events leading up to the riot. Those requests come as a federal judge rejects a separate effort from the Republican National Committee. The RNC wants to block the House panel from obtaining email and fundraising documents. NBC News reporter Julie Sirkin joins us now with more on this. Julie, good morning. So first of all, which members of Congress does the panel want to talk with now, and what does the committee hope to learn from them?
Yeah, Joe, good morning. The committee sent these 3 letters yesterday to Mo Brooks, Andy Biggs, and Ronnie Jackson. Now, all 3 are interesting because they're currently serving in the House of Representatives. Some of them the committee has requested to speak to before, but all 3 already rejected the committee's request to speak with them next week. So that begs the question, will the committee move forward to subpoena them? Now, Mo Brooks, he's currently running for Alabama Senate. He's that candidate that President Trump endorsed and then unendorsed. The committee said they want to speak with him because he spoke at the rally ahead of January 6th and potentially had some communication with President Trump, as has been publicly detailed, when he said that President Trump asked him to rescind the 2020 election and overturn Joe Biden's victory. Now, Andy Biggs potentially had some communication with Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff. The committee knows this because of the investigation that they've been leading over the last year or so. Ronnie Jackson, though, perhaps the most interesting of the bunch. He's the former president's physician at the White House before he ran for Congress. He apparently has communications with the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, and they wanted to keep his security because they said, quote, he had critical data to protect. Now, we'll see what happens here, and the committee potentially has more letters to send this week.
Julie, I want to ask you about that other headline, the federal judge's decision allowing the House committee access to certain emails and fundraising data from the RNC. Why has the RNC been fighting to keep those documents out of the panel's hands, and what might the committee find inside of them?
Yeah, the committee requested a while ago, I should say, from the RNC to see documents, specifically emails from donors via a third party over a 2-month period, just before the election, November 3rd of 2020, and through January 6th on the day of the insurrection. And this could potentially have some critical information when the RNC tried to fundraise off of the former president's claims that the election was stolen. The RNC sought to keep these records private and concealed from the January 6th Select Committee. But interestingly enough, a Trump-appointed judge said that the committee has full jurisdiction to receive these documents. They did give the RNC until Wednesday to appeal the decision. And of course, we know the RNC will certainly do that. But another win for the panel here, who's been having a tough time over the last year getting these records that they want and getting the communications that they've requested.
Julie Sirkin. Julie, thanks for your reporting. Appreciate it. Time to get a check on your morning news now. Weather
with Michelle Grossman, who's in studio with us. My first time in studio with you.
I know. I'm so excited to see you.
Happy to see you too.
So happy to see you too, Joe.
Again, yes.
Again, it's all the time. You know.
We're old chums now.
Exactly. We are watching some severe weather once again today. We've been watching it really since yesterday. You can clearly see where this cold front is, stretching from the Great Lakes all the way to parts of Texas. Even some lightning on the trailing end of this cold front. This is all going to move off to the east, and we're going to see the potential for severe weather once again, stretching from Louisville to Cincinnati, Columbus, even into the western part of Pennsylvania. So Pittsburgh, you're included there. The good news is, unlike last night and this morning, we're looking at a less chance for strong tornadoes. Just a few tornadoes are possible. Otherwise, the biggest threats, winds gusting to 60 miles per hour and also some small hail. As we go towards tomorrow, notice that this bullseye goes back to the plains, and we're looking at enhanced risk. That's where you're seeing the orange there. So once again, 5 million at risk, kind of over the same areas that saw that severe weather Friday night, also last night into this morning. We could see some really large hail, damaging hail, up to 2 inches. Some tornadoes, some could be strong, so we're certainly going to watch that on Wednesday. And then winds gusting over 60 miles per hour. Could see isolated wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. Big concern is the rainfall, too. We had some flooding conditions this morning, some flash flood floodings with the rivers, the streams, the creeks, and we're going to watch that overnight once again. So where you see the orange, the red, that's where we're looking at the most rainfall, up to 3 inches in some spots right around Tulsa. And once again, we are in that time of season where it's such a dividing line between the battle of seasons here. So warm in the mid-Atlantic, 11 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. In Charlotte, 87 degrees. Doesn't that sound nice, guys? Yeah. Back to the west, we're looking at some really chilly conditions, though. We're looking at Chicago, 16 degrees below typical for this time of year, coming in at 50. That's not sounding as nice. Then as we go towards tomorrow, we still see that yellow on the map. So even up to D.C., 82 degrees. That's 10 degrees above where we usually end up this time of year. Still in the 50s and 60s behind this cold front. But guess what? We get into the action in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast by Thursday and Friday. Temperatures dipping into the 60s and then the 50s in New York City on Saturday. Washington, D.C., you're going to drop about 10 degrees, too. So, you know, it's just that time of year. It's May. Cinco de Mayo looks good, though.
Yeah, that's good. Well, right.
Important,
We're
right?
good. We'll start getting those margaritas ready.
Yeah. Michelle, she walks, she talks, she clicks. This is so fun.
I took off my pajama pants. It's like so many things I had to do today.
We talked about pointing last week. She gets to point again. It's super
exciting. That's why I wore the fancy wings. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. That was fun, though, when you ended up over here. I love it. All right. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you so much, Michelle. All right, so coming up on Morning News Now, continuing coverage of that breaking news, the potential end of Roe versus Wade.
Also ahead, a turn for the worse in the fight against COVID. New York City now up to 4 times the number of cases it had just 2 months ago. What it could mean for the rest of the country. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We'll have more of our coverage of the possible overturning of Roe v. Wade just ahead. But right now, some of the other news this morning. Let's start with Vice President Kamala Harris. She's returning to the White House today for the first time since testing positive for COVID last week.
She tested negative on Monday, and later tonight, Harris will deliver remarks at a gala event in Washington. Now, her press secretary says she'll be wearing a well-fitting mask while she's around others for the next several days. Joining us now is NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel. Dr. Patel, good to see you this morning. So we know the VP was treated for COVID by taking the antiviral pill Paxlovid. Pfizer, the company that makes the drug, announced Friday that during a trial, it failed to prevent people living with COVID patients from catching the infection themselves. So as cases have crept up in recent weeks, what should we make of that? And was it the best decision for Vice President Harris to be treated with the drug, especially since it appears she didn't really have any symptoms?
Yeah, good morning, Joe and Savannah. Yes, the vice president absolutely should have been treated. And that's because it really does make a difference if you can take Paxlovid as early as possible in diagnosis, especially if you've had any history of chronic conditions that put you at a higher risk. And of course, the vice president for chain of command is definitely a reason to keep her as low risk as possible. In terms of that study, Joe, briefly, it's too difficult to kind of parse what to read into this. But as you said, this was really to look at Paxlovid and household contacts who had somebody in the household that was positive, but you had a rapid antigen test that was negative. And then they divided about 3,000 patients into a placebo arm and people who took the drug. And in the end, it wasn't statistically significant to prevent you from getting COVID. Couple of quick possibilities. It could be that people just hadn't tested positive and their antigen was negative and they were already infected. 2, the drug, you might need to take it longer in order to prevent it. And then 3, it's possible that it just doesn't get into these parts of our body, the nose and the throat, where Omicron, we know, is hitting hard, and Omicron itself makes a difference.
Dr. Patel, I want to ask you about what's happening here in New York City and kind of if it's an indication for the rest of the country, because we've raised our COVID alert. The city's reporting about 2,500 new cases a day. That's 4 times the number of cases here back in early March. It is important context, so I think that deaths remain low. So what does that mean about how concerned the rest of the country should be about this?
Yeah, I think we're going to see similar patterns already playing out other parts of the Northeast. We will see this kind of whip around the rest of the country. But as you point out, Savannah, 2 key facts. We're watching hospitalizations in New York closely. They are trending upward, but not at a clip that would be proportionate to the rate of cases. So I'll say that a different way. Hospitalizations are primarily in unvaccinated people. We're seeing cases in vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals, mostly mild. So this tells us vaccines are working, but this will go around the country most likely.
And quickly, Dr. Patel, I want to ask you about China. Despite the low number of cases being reported in Beijing, new hospitals are actually being built to handle a potential surge there. How effective do you think this zero COVID approach is going to be there in the long term?
No, I mean, we're showing that it's not effective, not only the impact on the economy and other parts, but I think Beijing, the fact that they're erecting a hospital tells you that they're preparing for the worst, which is smart from a public health perspective. But it's worth revisiting whether these zero policies are having the effect that they intended if they're looking at hospitalizations that could be as high to need to bring out these facilities again.
Dr. Patel, as always, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Doctor. The Federal Reserve is preparing to raise interest rates for the second time this year, hoping to stop runaway inflation. However, Americans are already feeling the pressure thanks to the war in Ukraine and supply chain breakdowns in China. NBC News correspondent Tom Costello has more on what the new rates will mean for small business owners.
In Salt Lake City, brothers Tyler and Dylan Green feel like the economy is stacked against them and their new company, Cash, that makes recreational accessories for tailgates. Supply chain delays in China, the high cost of business loans, and skyrocketing inflation are eating them alive.
As a business owner, gaining more capital will cost us even more and make our margins that are already slim that much slimmer.
And new loans are about to get even more expensive, with the Federal Reserve poised to raise rates by a half point this week after a quarter-point hike in March. The Fed trying to knock down 40-year high inflation that Americans are feeling every day.
We understand that high inflation imposes significant hardship, especially on those least able to meet the higher costs of essentials like food, housing, and transportation.
But the economy already shrank in the first quarter. The stock market, higher today, has been in a deep slide this year.
This is one of the worst and most complex situations that the Federal Reserve could face because they are effectively trying to reduce demand without tipping over the economy.
With higher interest rates making credit cards and loans more expensive, experts recommend consolidating your loans. If you're shopping for a new car or home, lock in your loan rate in the next 36 hours and maybe consider postponing that big purchase.
I'd say this might not be the right time. The uncertainty would make me nervous to tell them to go ahead and make those large purchases.
The Fed's challenge, hitting the brakes on the economy without sending it into recession. Meanwhile, diesel fuel prices have hit an all-time high. $5.32 a gallon now. Analysts blame a shortage of refining capacity and the Russian oil embargo. Higher diesel fuel costs mean higher shipping costs, which then sends prices even higher for food and products across the board. Back to you.
All right, Tom Costello, thank you so much. Now coming up, more breaking news coverage on that bombshell leak out of the Supreme Court as both sides of the abortion rights debate react to news that Roe v. Wade may be overturned. We'll bring you the latest.
Also ahead, a silent struggle. 3 top college athletes have died by suicide in just the last 2 months. More on the pressures that student athletes face and how to support them in our weekly check-in. Next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. We're continuing to follow that major breaking news from the nation's highest court. In an unprecedented leak, Politico obtained and published what it says was a draft opinion indicating that the Supreme Court would overturn Roe v. Wade in a pending case later this year. That is the landmark ruling that guarantees abortion rights to women throughout the country. NBC News has not been able to independently verify the authenticity of the document, and the Supreme Court has declined to comment. But the leaked draft, allegedly written by Justice Samuel Alito, says, "We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. The Constitution makes no such reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected by any constitutional provision." The court's final opinion is expected in late June or early July, meaning it is possible for the justices' final votes and the decision to change.
For more on this, we want to bring in MSNBC political analyst Jonathan Alter. He's also an author and columnist at the Daily Beast and a presidential historian. Jonathan, thanks for being with us. So first, I want to pick up on what Joe was just calling out there from this, which is what he just read from Samuel Alito's opinion there, which is this idea of this constitutional right. Put in context for us the magnitude of a constitutional right that was essentially given by the court being taken away by that same body. Historically, has that happened?
You know, I'm a little bit reluctant to say that something has never happened in American history. Last night, for instance, some commentators were saying a decision has never been leaked in advance, and that turned out not to be true. There were some cases. But it is extraordinarily unusual for the Supreme Court to grant a right and then have that right taken away. And I'm not sure that the American people, if the polls are any indication, are going to take kindly to that. Most people become accustomed to certain, and when they lose them, they get upset. So this is a very big deal. It's along the lines of, truly major Supreme Court decisions like the Dred Scott decision on the eve of the Civil War, Plessy versus Ferguson in the 1890s, Brown versus Board of Education in the early 1950s. So we're going to be hearing about the ramifications of this decision for a very long time.
Jonathan, I mean, the court's 3 liberal justices have warned that revoking abortion rights nationwide would paint the high court as a political body. I mean, if Roe is overturned, do you agree? Do you think the court becomes politicized? And what are the implications of that moving forward?
Well, I think it's already become politicized to a certain extent, but both the decision itself and the way it was released, the way it was leaked, undermined the integrity of the Supreme Court. And that's ultimately not good for democracy. It's in, banana republics, places that are having trouble with democracy, that our courts get undermined. And in our country, we've been fortunate to have, real integrity in our courts. That's what prevented the coup attempt last year, around the time of January 6th. We had courts that in 60 cases rejected these bogus claims that the election had been stolen. So the integrity of our courts is extraordinarily important. And there's no question that this decision does undermine support for the courts and place them in a more political context, especially since a few of these justices went before the United States Senate in their confirmation hearings, and they basically did not tell the truth, which is what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are alleging in their joint statement today. They said that they believed in the importance of precedent, and the precedents here were all on the other side. The precedents were all on the side of upholding Roe versus Wade. So they did a 180 on that. And their integrity during those confirmation hearings is now coming under real scrutiny.
Quickly, Jonathan, I mean, a leak like this, first time or not, from the Supreme Court is shocking. It's a body sort of steeped in secrecy. What sort of position does this put them in now that if this leak is legitimate, we kind of know who's on which side here? What does that mean for them since this decision isn't expected for another 2 months or so?
Well, we've known since oral arguments in December who was on which side. We just didn't know for sure. And you will have, a whole series of recriminations both inside the court and outside the court. There'll obviously be some kind of a leak hunt inside the court. Outside the court, this just scrambles everything politically. There's a huge difference between the repeal of Roe versus Wade being an abstraction, a hypothetical, conditional, if Roe is repealed, what happens? This is a slap in the face, and it will put the Republican Party going all the way down to the level of state representative on the defensive, because Republican candidates will have to answer the question, do you support abortion being banned in your district, not as an abstraction? And I think you can expect to see at least some Republicans, not in primaries, but in the general election, trying to backpedal and say, well, not in cases of rape or incest. And you're going to see a lot of debate about the specifics of abortion. How much that affects the midterms remains to be seen.
Jonathan Alter, thank you so much. We appreciate your context this morning, and we'll have much more on this story throughout the morning.
Time now for our weekly mental health check-in, where we walk through some of the biggest mental health headlines.
It's also, we like to say, a moment to take a deep breath and reflect on our emotional well-being. Let's bring in someone who's no stranger to our check-in series. That's Dr. George James. Dr. James is a licensed marriage and family therapist at Counsel for Relationships and someone we always enjoy having on the show. Good morning, doctor. Thanks for joining us. So Monday marked the start of Children's Mental Health Awareness Week. We know the pandemic has seriously impacted the mental health of all of us, but certainly of kids and teens. What do we have to do moving forward to make sure this crisis doesn't get any worse? What steps can we take to help our younger generations?
I think it's great that we're focusing on children, and I think this is something that we should all share with so many people across the country, that we should focus on our children. We should ask them questions. How are you doing? Are you overwhelmed? Are you worried? Because that's been one of the biggest things with the pandemic that children have experienced is increase in anxiety, increase in just being overwhelmed and with worry, and to be able to support them. Also, as family members, as parents, as guardians, as caregivers, being able to recognize the relationship between what you are experiencing to what your child or children might experience, what your household is experiencing to what your child might be experiencing. So if you are overwhelmed, if you are anxious, this just makes sense that your child could be anxious too. So check in with them, support them, and give them space to share. And then if they need additional help, find that resource for them.
Doctor, let's talk about mental health for student athletes. Since the beginning of March, 3 high-profile college student athletes have died by suicide. What are some of the pressures that these athletes are facing, and is there anything more that colleges can do to try and address this?
Yeah, this is really unfortunate, and it also highlights the struggle that student athletes and athletes in general experience. As someone that works with, student athletes in college and professional athletes and retired athletes, I see it quite often where athletes get to this place where they feel isolated and alone, right? They are seen as the star, as the one that is really great, which means people think that they're invincible, that they have no struggles, and then they take on that mindset. It's one of the places where the stigma of mental health is still being worked through, where some people are just getting to the place where they can say, I'm struggling, I'm overwhelmed, or I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, and I need help. So for all student athletes out there, get support, share that you need the help, and find those resources so that you don't feel alone and isolated.
Such important information there. And of course, one of those resources is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you or anyone you know is struggling, please call 800-273-8255 or text TALK to 741-741. Dr. George James, as always, thank you for joining us on this important topic in this segment that's so important.
Coming up on Morning News Now, back to the office.
Yeah, now demand for office space is on the rise as more companies tell their employees to work in person. More on the trend and what it could mean for you when we come back.
Demand for office space has stalled this year as people continue to work remotely, but new figures show that it's finally come roaring back.
Yeah, that's right. Demand spiked 20% in March compared to February, and that's more than 8% year over year. NBC's senior climate and real estate correspondent Diana Olick joins us now to dive further into these numbers. Hey, Diana, good to see you. So what is behind this spike? What can we take away from this demand, and should we expect the trend to continue?
Well, yes, definitely. It's just companies are calling their employees back to work, plain and simple. We saw that initial return to office last fall, and then because of Omicron variant, we saw total stagnation for about 5 months. Now, new demand in March for office jumped 20% from February and was up over 8% from a year ago. That's according to a new report from VTS, which tracks office tours. Now, demand for office space is still about 2/3 of what it was pre-pandemic. And you're seeing the most demand, though, in Boston, Chicago, LA, New York City, San Francisco, and DC. Now, a new survey of employers by CBRE found 36% said return to office was already underway. Then 26% said it would be done by the end of June. 13% said it was up to workers, and just 10% were still uncertain. So that says to me, we're going back to the office, guys.
Yeah. No kidding. So, all right, if you're looking for an apartment to rent in a big city right now, rents are sky high. But what's the market looking like for companies that need office space fast? Are they actually getting good deals right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, there were high vacancy rate in offices, so they are seeing better rates. And you're seeing a different kind of office right now. So when you do return to work, you're going to see differences. You're going to see more in terms of office tech, that is like enhanced video conferencing, occupancy sensors, and employee experience apps, touchless techs. You're also going to see more free address seating. That means that you can really sit anywhere you want. You don't have your own desk. Nearly 2/3 of companies intend to add more free address seating meaning that desks are open to anyone. You're also going to see widespread hybrid work. That is, 70% of companies intend to allow employees to spend a combination of their time in the office and working remotely rather than one or the other. So nearly half want to be an equal mix. And then you're going to see a greater possibility of working in flexible office space. So what that says to me is that companies are not going to need quite so much office space because not everyone's going to be in the office at the same time.
And so what do you think that there then means for longer term, the future of office real estate? I mean, if companies are maybe not just dead set on employees returning in person, it's more hybrid. What does that mean?
Well, it's going to mean, again, a little bit less demand for office space, but it's going to mean top caliber office space is going to be in high demand. That is really high tech offices, offices that really cater to employees. We're seeing a lot in the ESG realm, that is environmental, social governance. That is, we want to see clean office buildings. We want to see net zero office buildings. That's what workers are demanding. So when you see that top quality office space, that's going to be in super high demand. Some of the lower quality office space might not be in so much demand, but we are seeing the stocks behind office space really start to move up, and that's a future indicator of what at least investors see as future demand.
Interesting stuff. Diana, thank you so much.
More financial headlines now. Amazon workers have voted against unionizing at a second warehouse in Staten Island.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and more. Hey, Silvana.
Hey guys, good morning. Yep, that's right. So Amazon workers have voted against unionizing at a second warehouse in Staten Island. It's a setback for organizers just weeks after celebrating their first win at the company. As the nation's second largest private employer, Amazon has long been a focus of unions that consider its practices a threat to workers. Amazon says it offers more than double the federal minimum wage, comprehensive benefits, and empowers staff to change the workplace for the better. Facebook is shutting down its podcast business just a year after it launched. Parent company Meta confirming it will wind down podcasting and remove shows entirely on June 3rd. There have been hints recently the company was losing interest in podcasts and shifting focus to hotter items such as Facebook's main feed and Instagram's Reels. Meta was not only competing against market leaders Apple and Spotify, but upstarts like Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces. Ford just started shipping the new F-150 Lightning last week, but it has a surprise for new owners. All versions of the electric pickup truck will have more horsepower than originally announced. Ford says the standard range will now produce 452 horsepower versus the original estimate of 426. The extended range will get 580 horsepower, up from 563. And the payload capacity, or how much the weight the truck can hold in the bed, cab, and trunk, is also getting a bump to 2,200 pounds.
All right. I have no idea what any of that means, but it sounds good if you like.
It's going to be very powerful.
Horsepower. All right.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Thank you. Appreciate
you got it.
Thank you. Coming up on Morning News Now, going green to the extreme.
You're flushing your toilet with the water you took a shower in yesterday.
Up next, we're going to take you inside a new kind of sustainable home called an Earthship to show you how it could help in the fight against climate change. You're watching Morning News Now. We're continuing to cover innovative approaches to the climate crisis, and here's an option that takes you completely off the grid. They're called Earthships, and they're popping up across the world with one goal in mind: sustainable housing.
Yeah, from collecting rainwater to using tires as insulation, these homes are all about reduce, reuse, recycle. NBC News Now correspondent Maura Barrett went to New Mexico, where the concept originated, to learn more.
One man's trash, another man's treasure. Here in Taos, New Mexico, that treasure taking shape as hyper-sustainable homes.
It is resilient. It is made to deal with the world around it.
Michael Reynolds designed the original concept 55 years ago, creating structures he calls Earthships.
It's a machine to live in that encounters the phenomena of the planet to give you everything you need free without destroying the planet.
Reynolds has since grown that concept into a company called Earthship Biotexture, also creating a community where people can live in or spend a night in one of his creations.
With a big screen TV and a full-size kitchen, some Earthships look like a traditional home, while others are more artistic. Either way, they're all completely off-grid and are built from 40% recycled materials.
They run using solar and wind electricity and harvest rainwater for reuse.
You're flushing your toilet with the water you took a shower in yesterday.
So when you experience dark skies and intense winds like we did on our visit, it's actually a good thing.
I am getting water, not in a plastic bottle. I've got it no matter what happens to the stores or to the deliveries. And so, yeah, when it rains, I smile.
Gives you a better appreciation for what Earth gives us.
The Earth gives us everything. We just have to learn how to encounter it. It's a different way of looking at life on this planet.
Earthships sprouting up across 35 states and internationally. Their popularity has also spawned critics who say the homes can prove less sustainable and self-sufficient in practice than at first glance. But interest in the ambitious environmental vision and the idea of saving on energy costs continues to grow. The demand spurring the need for the Earthship Academy.
So there's your pearl, and one of its functions is to attach the insulation.
Students at this session came from across the world, inspired to build their own Earthships after watching climate disasters like extreme drought and storms leave traditional homes without power.
I would also like to see how to implement certain concepts into the conventional housing that already exists in cities and towns, because I think it will be worth saving on energy, which is, the energy costs are going up every day, and I think it's quite scary for a lot of people.
A sustainable home, Earthship, life raft, whatever you want to call it.
It's a yacht. It's a life yacht.
It's taking on the climate crisis, one recycled tire, can, and bottle at a time.
A life yacht. All right. Thanks to Maura Barrett for that report. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.